A little girl was taken from this world too soon, hit by a driver who never stopped, never looked back. That driver, a trusted local officer, chose silence over responsibility, hoping his secret would stay buried. But what he didn't count on was the lion she once saved, returning to the exact spot, refusing to move. And just wait until you see how this quiet guardian brought the truth to light, and how justice at last found its voice. Hazelwood woke up like any other town that morning, quiet, unassuming, wrapped in the everyday hum of small-town life. Coffee brewed behind diner counters. A school bell rang in the distance. Wind nudged at old signs on Main Street. And yet, just beyond the parking lot of the Greenway supermarket, something impossible sat in silence. A lion, not a statue, not a prank. A real lion, full-grown, majestic, weathered. His golden mane stirred gently in the morning breeze, though the rest of him didn't move an inch. Deep scars ran across his cheek, faded but visible. His gaze was locked on a single spot across the street, eyes focused, as if guarding something no one else could see. He didn't roar, he didn't pace, he just sat, still, alert, unshakable. Within minutes, the first patrol car arrived, sirens off, then another, then a crowd. Officers stepped out slowly, hands hovering by their holsters, uncertain. No one dared get too close. But the lion didn't flinch. Not once. He didn't even seem to notice them. Hours passed. 5, then 10. The sun arched and fell behind the treetops, but he didn't move. Not to drink, not to rest. Just watching. By day 2, the story had gone national. By day 6, CNN had a live feed running 24 hours a day, with commentators speculating everything from lost zoo animal to a bizarre protest staged by animal rights activists. But no one could explain one thing. Why was he there? Traffic rerouted, businesses closed. Children pressed their faces to windows, whispering. Some cried, most just watched. Silent. Because deep down, everyone felt the same thing. This wasn't just an animal, he was waiting, and not everyone was afraid. Kenneth Blake, a local bus driver and retired Marine, lived just 2 blocks from that stop. He'd seen the lion that first morning, watched him every day since. And on the 3rd day, he stepped past the tape and whispered to the cameras, "This animal, he's not lost. He's standing guard, like a soldier, like he's watching over something sacred." Animal control teams arrived next. Tranquilizer rifles, drones, netting. But when a dart whizzed toward the lion, he did something that stopped everyone cold. He raised a single paw, and knocked the dart from the air. Not with panic, not with rage, with precision. The specialist backed off. The lion stayed seated. That's when the rumors started. Some whispered he was a spirit. Others said he was an omen. People told stories of haunted animals, of jungle magic, of divine signs. But amid the chaos and the questions, one voice cut through the noise like a soft bell. An elderly woman, dressed in lavender with white gloves, stepped gently through the crowd. Her name was Agnes Joy. She didn't speak to the cameras. She didn't wave to the crowd. She simply looked at the lion, her hand clutching a wrinkled photograph. And then she whispered, so softly, it almost disappeared into the wind. "He's waiting for his girl. I've seen this look before. That's Simba, my granddaughter's lion." And just like that, the world went still. Even the lion blinked. No one moved. No one spoke. Because in that moment, the mystery wasn't terrifying anymore. It was heartbreaking. The cameras shifted when Agnes Joy began to speak, not because her voice was loud, but because the weight of her words made the world lean in. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble, but something in her eyes, something aged and shattered, spoke of a grief that hadn't faded in 6 days. If anything, it had only sharpened. Her name was Haley, she said quietly, her hands wrapped around a photo, worn at the edges. 11 years old, kind, bookish, always had her head in a story, even when crossing the street. She paused, eyes fixed on the lion still seated just a few yards away. She was coming home from the library that night. It was raining, one of those slow, cold rains that makes the pavement shine like glass. The crowd stood silent. Even the reporters lowered their microphones as if they were eavesdropping on something they had no right to hear. The driver never stopped. The only thing the cameras caught were headlights and Haley's white jacket. Police had reviewed the footage, but the rain had blurred the image. The camera quality was too poor, the angles too wide. The vehicle disappeared into the storm like a ghost, and no license plate had ever been read. The town searched for days, but the trail went cold. And now, 6 days later, a lion sat at the exact intersection where Haley had fallen. People had questions. Agnes had one answer. "That's Simba," she whispered, barely audible over the wind. He was hers. She looked at the lion, not with fear, but with something closer to heartbreak. We took him in years ago. He was sick, barely alive when the rescue center brought him in. Haley helped bottle feed him back to life. For months, she cared for him like he was a baby. Slept beside his crate, read to him from her favorite books. 3 months, that's how long they had. Then he got too big. We had to send him to a sanctuary, out near the state line. We told Haley it was for his own good. She cried for a week. That had been 3 years ago. No one could explain how Simba had escaped. No one knew how a lion, born in captivity, raised behind fencing, could have crossed 60 miles of highways, forests, bridges, and towns to find this exact place. But here he was. He came back, Agnes said, her voice barely holding steady, on the day she left. And for the first time, people weren't afraid of the lion anymore. They were afraid of the meaning of what it meant to remember that precisely, to hold on that tightly. A veterinarian who had monitored the lion finally shared what he'd found. On Simba's paw was a deep, torn gash, likely from barbed wire. "He broke through fencing," the vet said. "He's lost weight, dehydrated. He hasn't eaten or moved in days. He's not trying to run. He's not trying to fight. He's waiting." That word again, waiting, not hunting, not surviving. Waiting. For something. Or someone. And then came the revelation, the kind that doesn't come in shouts, but in silence. Kenneth Blake, the bus driver, sat on the hood of his vehicle, replaying that awful night over and over in his head. The rain, the lights, the faint memory of a gray car parked across from the crosswalk. He hadn't thought anything of it back then. The rain blurred everything. But now, 6 days later, with the lion still unmoved, something snapped into place. "That car," Kenneth muttered, eyes narrowing. "I've seen it before. Same dent on the passenger door, same rust on the rear panel." A cold feeling settled in his stomach. It was his friend's car. Officer Jim Wallace, a fellow Marine, a trusted man in uniform, a man who, until now, had said nothing. Kenneth didn't call the police. He got in his truck and drove. He knew where to go. The house was small, the porch sagging. The door opened before he could knock. Jim Wallace stood there, eyes tired, hands trembling. "I didn't see her," he said, voice low. "I wasn't drunk. I've been on duty for 2 days straight. My mind was foggy. I panicked. I thought I was saving myself." He looked down, barely holding it together. But now, that lion, he's not here for revenge, is he? He's here to remember. Back at the bus stop, Simba hadn't moved, not once. 7 days, no food, no water, just silence. A silence so loud the entire town could hear it. And then, at dawn on the 7th day, Agnes arrived. She wore her Sunday coat. In her hands, a small plush lion, the one Haley carried everywhere. She walked past the tape. No one stopped her. She placed the toy gently on the bench. "Goodbye, sweetheart," she whispered. "You're gone." But he stayed, to remind the world how much you were loved. Simba blinked, slowly. Then with quiet strength, he stood. He stepped around the bench, paused, sniffed the toy once, and walked away, toward the forest. Alone. Calm. Gone. They searched for him. No trace. Days later, Jim turned himself in. No cameras, no drama, just the truth. People didn't forgive him right away, but he took the first step. The bench remains. Now it's covered in flowers, notes, toys. Not a memorial for tragedy, but a symbol of something deeper. Because this was never just about a lion. It was about loyalty, about a goodbye too big for words, and a kind of justice. that waited in silence.